So net neutrality was passed under the Obama administration, and my knee-jerk reaction is anytime you try to get government involved in trying to regulate an industry, I just like, no. Particularly, hey, look, get your hands off my internet. I don't want a government involved in my internet. But I also believe that the government's real only job in business needs to be a referee and to break up monopolies. And if you've got monopolies and you have, somebody dominating, it's a government's job to break that up. So what net neutrality in theory is supposed to be, according to legislation, is, hey man, there's only so many internet service providers, i.e. Time Warner, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, and these big guys, they own the railroads, they own the highways, and it doesn't matter what shops are on that highway. If you control the highway, you control the digital spectrum. And so what the theory of net neutrality is that, these big mega ISPs, the plan is to create a two-tier system. One system is a super fast lane, and the other one it would be slow. So the super fast lane would say, okay, Google, Amazon, you have unlimited speed. When you come to your sites, it'll be instantaneous. Netflix and all the rest of them have the ability, because they have the money to be able to pay more. They've got millions of dollars to pay. They're in a fast lane. Everybody like you and me have a very slow, painful website that will crawl at a snail pace. Now, not to get too political, because I don't like pissing people off, but I also don't like to be politically correct. So I'll give my perspective politically. Anytime you put a name on something like the Affordable Healthcare Act, it's not affordable. The net neutrality, I'm suspicious. So it makes me suspicious. So when you look deeper behind the scenes, you look who's supporting net neutrality, the funding behind it, George Soros and all the rest of them. There's a lot of dark money behind it, and a lot of these big and mega corporations like Google, Amazon, and the rest of them, who have vested interest in pushing this legislation. You have to wonder why. So you look deeper, you read the actual legislation, and it does keep Comcast and Time Warner in check, which I love, but it gives virtually unlimited ability to companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Twitter, to make up rules as they go along. No accountability, no checks and balances, do whatever they want, to shut you off for free speech. If you compete with them, they don't like you, they turn you off. I'm seeing this firsthand. I've got a client. We wrote one of the very first software applications that is the Netflix outside the United States. It's streaming television, streaming live broadcast television outside the U.S. It's the only one that I know that it currently exists. It's a revolutionary pioneer product. We tried to get a Google ad with 2 words, streaming TV. And Google comes back and says, this is derogatory content you're not allowed to use, and therefore we are not going to allow you to post this ad. 2 days later, the website was blocked and banned. Now, streaming TV, if you Google streaming TV, it's Netflix, it's Hulu, it's Amazon, it's Google. All these other guys are using streaming TV. These 2 keywords together, streaming TV, are fully available and available for all of these mega giant corporations. But yet for us, the small entrepreneur, no, this is illegal content. So this is the result of things like net neutrality that on the surface give you the illusion that it's to help the little guy and keep an even playing field, in which yet it does. So I do support it in that level. But then it gives this giant power grab to everybody else behind the scenes. So I'm usually not very torn when it comes to legislation, when it comes to technology. I'm very definitive, and I'm kind of a hard ass on my belief systems.
Everybody hail, everybody hail, we just came to raise a little hell. Everybody hail, we just came to raise a little hell.
Yeah, property rights. It's the core of, you know, a core of a free society is if you have the ability to defend yourself and have your own private property. Yeah, great.
You and I know this inherently because we come from an older world. We are immigrated to the internet. We see the two spheres very easily. Digital natives are specifically so immersed that they cannot see the wood for the trees. And what I see, I'm not judging them. I'm just saying I see that they feel entitled, especially the millennial crowd. They feel entitled. And that's why you have to be so careful about where do you expend your time and energy. If you are behind a keyboard or device and you're expending time and energy, now you could build something, you could learn something, you could learn a skill, or you can just consume content. Now, if you're going to consume content or create content on a property, a domain somewhere, so a domain is a property of some entity. If you choose to transact with that entity, I mean, you're on their domain. So just don't do it or pull out of it. But you can't be entitled because you were stupid enough to invest all your time and energy into that, and then to be kicked off. I can see how someone can be completely offended by that, but I think they would lack the depth of understanding of what they're really involved with. At the bottom of it, I think regulations there to keep things fair and simple between people. It's not always fair. We don't always feel like that because we don't have the full story. But I do feel that in the ideal world, there's no regulating body at all. That we have some form of, and I heard some latest things talking about storing memory in blockchain. Now imagine it is so holographic that we just had memory in blockchain. So anything that's tied to me, created by me, I have the freedom. There's no intermediary. I choose through my actions, my choice, whether I interact with you or that entity or that other domain. So I have a free choice, but here's the thing. This is the age-old problem, David. People are not in the position to govern themselves. There are those who are, and there are those, the vast majority, you call them asleep, who are not in the position to govern themselves. They need regulation.
You know, it's very difficult because there's a guy named Adam Kokesh, and he wrote something called Freedom, and it's about self-governance and the dissolving of the consolidation of power and the hierarchy of where we are.
Yeah, of course. Throughout
history, we've always consolidated power, and we've always relied on governments and monarchies to kind of rule, to keep order. And I think order is very important. I'm not an anarchist. We need law enforcement. We need rules. We need et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is it winds up in the end in despotism because power corrupts and absolute power absolutely corrupts, or however that saying goes. And, you know, government always winds up pushing their agenda at gunpoint. And I would love to be able to see a society that's based on volunteerism. I agree with you. I don't think we're ready yet as a society or humans to be able to self-govern or to live in a sphere of self-governance and volunteerism. But this just my dream, though. You know, projecting 21 years forward, a decentralized, technology playing field, a decentralized governing, body would be beautiful. I just don't know if it's realistic.
Ride to town, shoot 'em up, and keep on going. I got a job to do.
We're talking about decentralizing and volunteerism. Having a society based on volunteerism, that we're in self-governance instead of relying upon these governmental bodies to dictate. Because even the very best legislation with the best intention, unless it's a constitutional amendment, it could be watered down, modified later on behind closed doors. 2 years later or 20 years later, when no one's watching, and next thing you know, a great legislation it turns into loss of liberty.
Right.
So get your gun and bet your life if you're a gambler.